Hey everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you so much for joining me here. Happy Thursday to you and your family. Hope you're having a fantastic and amazing day. Of course, we're taking a little look here at Bitcoin. Big surprise, right? What's going on with this guy? We're going to take a look at some HyblockCapital data, some pretty important stuff we really need to know a lot about, such as intraday, liquidation levels, bid-ask spreads, pretty much you name it, the fear and greed index. All that stuff is really important to understand going into this range-bound activity that we're at right now. Okay, so I want to kind of highlight that and a few other things. And if you are new to the channel, just know I love to teach people to trade. Been trading for over 17 years, closer to 18 now, I guess we could round up. And I've just been loving teaching and trading for a very long time. And it's just an awesome life to be able to have a cool community at my back. So if you want to become part of something bigger and be just generally a better trader, CryptoCash.tech is a site, link down below. Check that out in your own time. And obviously familiarize yourself with our partnerships because we do have a lot of affiliations with different exchanges and things just to help benefit you greatly with deposit awards and of course monthly trading competitions. Really cool stuff. All right, so Bitcoin one day looks decent. Try not to get ahead of yourselves. All right, that's the preface here, okay? So just to start, first of all, traditional markets are looking good. NASDAQ is kind of on a tear. It's doing very, very well, okay? So we got to understand that does complement the situation right now, okay? So with Bitcoin kind of being up on the day in traditional markets as well, and dollar index is down, those all make sense, okay? That's kind of the standard stuff that makes a lot of sense as to where we're at right now, okay? So hypothetically, traditional markets continue upwards, then we might expect Bitcoin to continue. It will take a lot more than just that, though, I feel, to break through this resistance level. Okay, so we'll talk about that in a minute here. Why don't we just jump right in to some HyblockCapital data so you can kind of see where things are at here. We'll start with just say the liquidation heat map. Pretty straightforward here in the sense that we've got a lot of different liquidation levels, but the most emphasis on liquidation would be 24,400 and right there at 25,200. So once again, those support and resistance ranges that we're within right now. So keep in mind at this point, there's a good chance we're going to see some resistance at 25,000 and obviously resistance or support rather at closer to the 24,000, 24,400 mark. Okay, that's basically what that is telling us here. That being said, we can see a lot of liquidation levels here, a large emphasis on liquidation right here at the 25,200 mark. So that really reaffirms the fact that we have a pretty strong resistance level, but good news is mostly shorts are getting liquidated right now, okay? So if you're on the long side of things, that's slightly better, okay? We've got the most amount of open interest at about 24,600, okay? So that being said, the price action being above 24.5, kind of past that tentative resistance level, tells me that we have a lot more interest in the market and there's more people believing the price will go up than it will down. But once again, the data kind of speaks a little bit louder here. So why don't we take a look here? We can see with liquidations, they're pretty much drawing dead here today. Okay, so we got an even amount of liquidations and open interest going down. Typically when open interest comes down, that implies there's less volume. And less volume implies that there's stronger resistance levels at that point. Okay, so to me, 25,000 is just reaffirming itself as a strong resistance. We've also got a decent amount of more of asks than we do bids. Okay, so if you're familiar with the bid-ask spread, bid is a buy, ask is a sell. So essentially right now there's more people trying to short than there are people trying to long. Okay, but bottom line is that the fear and greed index is right there, kind of at neutral at 52. So it really could go either way. You could pretty much flip a coin right now and determine the direction. But what we want to do is take that coin flip out of the equation, right? We want to kind of look and see if there's any proof in the pudding, so to speak, of which direction it might head. So as I mentioned previously, we have a range-bound activity right now, okay? So the price being range-bound, roughly between 24,000 and 25,300, we can expect it to kind of stick within that range until it doesn't, right? It's the same thing with trend lines, etc. There's a common trend there, okay? But on the daily, we're above 50 and below 70 in the RSI. So there's potential for the price to continue higher, but it's more so bullish than it is bearish at this time. And when I say more so bullish, I'm more so just referring to the fact that we had 3 very strong green candles, and that essentially led to a red 4th candle yesterday, which is essentially 3 white soldiers pattern coming to fruition. So that was absolutely correct in that sense. That pattern worked itself out the way it should. But it did put us on the more bullish than bearish side of things, and I just mean that we are slightly more apt to increase than we are to decrease, or to at least hold this position. Keep in mind 23,000 is a very strong likelihood if we are to lose this range. Okay, that is the next Fibonacci retracement level. 0.618 is very strong. I do feel if we lose 24,000, 23 will be the next target. But there's a lot of support there too, and if we take a look at the volume profile, we can see that there's a tremendous amount of volume right there at that 0.618 mark. And that, a lot of times that works as a magnet, okay? In my recent signals that I sent out, I put this little guy on the chart to kind of show you that, hey, there's a good chance that the price action might pull or gravitate towards that to bounce off of that support level. Okay, and that's where volume comes into play. We'll worry about that later, but for right now, for the most part, we're looking pretty decent. We're still above all moving averages in the daily. It looks fairly consistent. Okay, so there's no reason to expect the price to just drop like a rock, but it would make sense, of course, that the price would potentially stay within this range and then decrease from here. And what I mean by that is that we have pretty much parallel highs and parallel lows for the moment. Now, it depends on how low this next low is, will determine kind of what direction we're going. But if the price were to come back down here and bounce, then it may actually continue to progress higher. And if so, then I might consider closing our short position we have open with ETH. But for right now, I do feel like we're still going to hit that target because we are starting to lose that momentum. Once again, different scenarios, different situations altogether. But generally speaking, we're above all three moving averages here. We are still diverging on the MACD, so keep this in mind. That is absolutely something that is giving me some confidence in the way that we are progressing here, that we could come down further. A lot of indecision at the 52,000, sorry, 25,000 mark. 52, that would be nice, wouldn't it? We missed those days. Anyways, yeah, long story short here is 4 hours, fairly positive, but also has that ominous divergence on the horizon, okay? But you can see we came down to a 7, we bounced up to a 4. So hypothetically, we could see another 5 more 4-hour candles, another 20 hours at this range before it breaks down. I don't think it'll take that long to break down personally, but we will see. Taking a look at the hourly, we can see also that we are at a 9 on T-sequential here recently, and we are now resetting sideways. So we're kind of range bound once again, as per usual, and we're stuck within the cloud if I recall correctly, which we are. We don't have any momentum to the upside or the downside here. Lagging spans intersect with the price action, so really it's one of those situations where it's kind of no man's land. It's always best to wait until it chooses a side before you continue to progress towards that side. So that being said, just keep in mind if it breaks up above here and goes, consolidates right there at that resistance, there is a chance it could break above, but you got to wait for it to happen first. In my personal opinion, I do not like trying to catch those little those early entries. I like to wait for the price to come up and then of course test that as a support and then take entry and ride the wave. Okay, but I think we're a little ways from that. We need a little bit more volume at this price point. But the bottom line is if we take a look once again at some of this back end data, we can see open interest coming down. We're drawing even or drawing dead essentially on liquidations. This is aggregated across a lot of different exchanges, right? So when you see that kind of aggregation and it kind of just averages itself out, with more asks on the horizon, I think there's a lot more potential the price would come down. There's also a large influx of Bitcoin coming in as well to the market. And a lot of times that can spur a lot of interesting things. So if we see here, a lot of, almost 1.3 million supply on exchanges as of March 15th. Okay, so again, a lot of things that we need to factor in that are really kind of going to play a role here. But until we either close above or below the cloud, I'm not super convinced one way or the other we're going to go either direction. I think we're going to be stuck in this range for a little while. That's kind of where we're at there. I hope that I'm wrong and it just breaks to the upside and keeps going. Even if we lose out on our position, I want everyone to be profitable on their longs they have opened from before. But it does feel like we are in a position right now where it could come down a little bit lower. But again, we got to wait for the candlestick to close. You could even argue that this is a bullish engulfing candle, which it kind of is, but we're not there yet. Okay, again, a lot of trading left in the day. So I would recommend waiting for the candlestick closure, kind of see where it's at. Ultimately, we want to have a closure somewhere in the range of 24.6, 24.7 or higher today to be able to potentially validate a further increase. But I still don't think that's going to validate anything just yet because we are in a position right now where anything could happen. All right, so be careful, be cautious. Hopefully you learned something here today. If you did, comment below that whole 9 yards. If you want to become a better trader, CryptoCash.tech is the site. Do look forward to working with you. Hope you have a great rest of your day. We'll see you soon.